See, life has this funny way of making people believe that the one with the most money, the biggest army, the loudest voice, or the tallest building automatically wins. That's what most folks think. They look at a giant and think, well, ain't no way David can ever beat Goliath. They look at a small nation compared to a superpower and say, the story's already written, the ending is already decided. But what they forget is this: the underdog always has a plan. That's how history works, that's how God works, and that's how life shows you over and over again that size don't determine destiny, strategy does. Now, when we talk about the underdog, people always see the weakness, but the underdog sees the opportunity. The bigger player don't always see what's coming because they think nobody could ever catch up, nobody could ever challenge them, nobody could ever stand toe-to-toe with them. That's why they get comfortable, and comfort is dangerous. Because while one side is sitting back thinking they already won, the underdog is grinding, planning, strategizing, studying every single move. They're watching quietly, learning patiently, and when that moment comes, they make the world shake. That's exactly what India has been doing for years. People thought America was the ultimate game changer, the one writing the rules of the global game. But while all eyes were on America, India was building, brick by brick, silently stacking up knowledge, technology, trade, and influence. And now the world is looking around saying, hold up, when did this shift happen? That's the power of the underdog with a plan. You ever notice how the one people laugh at, the one people underestimate, is usually the one who comes back swinging the hardest? That's because rejection fuels vision. Doubt fuels determination. When the world don't expect much from you, that's when you've got the space to create something unstoppable. Think about your own life. Maybe you're sitting there feeling like the underdog. Maybe you feel overshadowed by somebody with more money, more power, more education, more everything. And you're thinking, how do I even compete? Well, let me tell you this. The competition ain't about being bigger. It's about being smarter. It's about using what you got in a way they can't see coming. That's what India did. They didn't try to play America's game on America's rules. They created their own game, because here's the truth: underdogs are forced to be innovative. They can't rely on muscle alone, so they rely on mindset. They can't depend on a head start, so they depend on hustle. And in the long run, that's what flips the whole balance of power. The giant might swing heavy, but if they miss once, it shakes them. The underdog, they've been hit so many times, they know how to take a punch, and they know how to keep moving. That resilience is what makes their plans so dangerous. Look at history. Every empire that thought it couldn't be touched eventually got touched. Every champion that thought they couldn't lose eventually lost. Because the underdog was somewhere in the shadows, writing a story nobody saw coming. It don't matter if it's in politics, sports, business, or life itself, the underdog has a way of flipping the whole table when they finally reveal the plan. India is doing it on a global scale. But don't miss the lesson for yourself. See, you've got to take this beyond nations and power struggles. You've got to ask yourself, what plan am I working on while the world sleeps on me? If you're the underdog in your career, are you studying, learning, grinding when others are chilling? If you're the underdog in your family, are you proving through your actions that you can be the one who breaks the cycle? If you're the underdog in your dreams, are you showing up every single day, knowing that one day the same people who doubted you will look shocked at your success? Because that's how the game works. Nobody claps for the underdog at the beginning. They laugh at them, they doubt them, they push them to the side. But that's fine, because applause don't build success, discipline does. Being underestimated is actually one of the greatest gifts you can get. When people don't take you seriously, you don't have the pressure of their expectations. You've got the freedom to grow in silence. That silence becomes your weapon, and when you show up with the results, the world has no choice but to pay attention. So when I say the underdog always has a plan, I mean you don't get discouraged by looking at who's bigger. You don't quit just because the world crowned somebody else king. You don't fold because people keep reminding you of your size or your status. No, you let that fuel you. You let that push you. You let that be the reason you stay in the lab, stay in the gym, stay on the grind. Because when that plan comes together, when that breakthrough finally shows up, you'll stand taller than anybody ever expected. And that's when the world realizes the story was never about size. It was always about strategy. Pressure is one of those things that can either break you or build you. See, the world we live in today is obsessed with speed. Everybody wants it fast. They want success overnight. They want respect overnight. They want money overnight. They want power overnight. They believe if it doesn't happen instantly, then it's not going to happen at all. But here's what life has proven over and over again. Patience beats pressure. The one who can wait, the one who can sit in the fire without panicking, the one who can take their time while everybody else is rushing, that's the one who eventually wins. Think about how America plays the game. A lot of times, it moves with pressure, using power to push its way, to force decisions, to demand outcomes. And yes, that works in the short term, but over time, pressure creates cracks. You can squeeze a situation, but if you don't respect the timing, you'll end up breaking what you're trying to control. That's where India flipped the script. India understood the long game. While others wanted to dominate fast, India chose to develop slow and steady. While others used intimidation, India used patience. They built industries, developed technology, nurtured alliances, and kept quiet until the timing was right. That's why the world is shocked now, because patience don't make noise, but it makes history. Patience is not weakness. Don't confuse waiting with wasting. A lot of people think if they're not moving fast, they're falling behind. That's a lie. Sometimes your greatest strength is in holding back, in not reacting, in allowing things to unfold while you quietly prepare yourself. Think about a seed planted in the ground. You don't see it for weeks, maybe months. If you didn't know better, you'd think nothing's happening. But under the soil, roots are forming, foundations are being built, strength is being created. And when that seed finally breaks the surface, it's unstoppable. That's how patience works. India spent decades in that soil building roots nobody could see, while the rest of the world thought nothing was happening. But now, when the tree has grown, everybody is realizing the power of patience. You've got to apply that to your own life. You might be in a season where you feel pressure coming at you from every direction, bills stacking up, people doubting you, time running out, and you think the only way to survive is to rush. But rushing is how you make mistakes. Rushing is how you quit too soon. Rushing is how you leave the process before the process is ready. Patience is how you win. Patience is how you outlast the pressure. See, the pressure wants you to panic. The pressure wants you to fold. The pressure wants you to believe that you don't have enough time, that you don't have enough resources, that you don't have enough strength. But patience is the antidote to pressure. When you stay calm, when you keep working while waiting, when you trust that your season will come, you turn pressure into progress. People who let pressure control them blow up too early, but people who master patience always arrive at the right time. I've seen it happen in people's personal lives too. Somebody looks at their friend who got the job quicker, the house quicker, the recognition quicker, and they start comparing. That comparison creates pressure, and before you know it, they're trying to live somebody else's timeline. But what they don't realize is this: your blessing is tied to your patience. Your moment is yours, not theirs. If you try to copy somebody else's timing, you'll miss your own. That's why patience is more powerful than pressure, because pressure wants you to copy, but patience allows you to create. When India waited, it wasn't sitting idle. It was working behind the scenes, investing in education, building its technology sector, strengthening its identity, building global trust step by step. That's how you wait with purpose. That's how you use patience as a weapon. Don't confuse patience with laziness. Don't confuse patience with procrastination. Patience means I know my moment is coming, and I refuse to ruin it by rushing. And let me tell you something, when patience finally pays off, it shocks the world. Because the world wasn't paying attention while you were waiting. They didn't see the preparation, they didn't see the sacrifices, they didn't see the foundation, they just see you rise, and they think it happened overnight. But you and I both know nothing powerful happens overnight. It happens because of years of patience, years of struggle, years of choosing not to quit under pressure. So when you think about where you are right now, I want you to remember this. Patience is not costing you time, it's buying you strength. Patience is not slowing you down, it's setting you up. Pressure will try to rush you into decisions, into mistakes, into fear. But patience will prepare you for victory, just like India showed the world. Patience is the greatest weapon of the underdog because when the timing finally lines up, there's nothing the giant can do to stop the one who waited for too long. People have believed that the one with the most size automatically holds the most power. They think the tallest skyscrapers, the strongest armies, the biggest bank accounts, the loudest voices, that's what makes somebody powerful. And that's exactly why they miss the truth. Power doesn't last because of size, power lasts because of strategy. The real shift always happens when somebody who looks smaller on the outside has a sharper plan on the inside. That's the lesson the world is starting to learn right now, because India has shown everybody that you don't have to be the biggest to change the game. You just have to be the smartest. See, strategy has always been the real separator. Goliath had size, but David had strategy. The Romans had size, but history flipped when their enemies out-strategized them. Every empire that looked untouchable eventually crumbled, not because somebody else was bigger, but because somebody else was smarter. That's the thing about life. You can't win forever on size alone, because size can be challenged. Size can be matched, size can even be outdone. But strategy, that's a weapon that lasts, because strategy is about playing the game 2, 3, 10 steps ahead. When America built itself into the superpower it is, it leaned on size, economic size, military size, influence size, and for a long time, that size gave it dominance. But what happens when another nation doesn't try to match your size, but instead builds a smarter strategy? That's exactly what India has been doing. India didn't try to outspend America dollar for dollar. It didn't try to build a military force bigger than America's. No, it shifted the game into areas where size alone can't dominate. It built itself into the technology capital of the world. It became a hub of innovation. It leaned into its population as a resource for talent, creativity, and production, not just as numbers on a chart. That's strategy. That's how you take what looks like a disadvantage and turn it into a weapon. You ever notice in life how the person who looks the loudest ain't always the smartest? The one who flashes money, cars, power, that don't always mean they know what they're doing. Because real winners don't always shout, they strategize. Real winners sit quiet while others make noise. Real winners prepare in silence, and when they finally move, everybody feels it. That's what India did. They watched, they learned, they studied the world order, and instead of forcing themselves to play by somebody else's rules, they started writing their own. And let's be real, strategy is what separates the dreamers from the doers. Plenty of folks want to be successful, but they think success is about being the biggest, about showing up and overpowering everybody in the room. That ain't it. Success is about strategy. It's about knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, and using both to your advantage. It's about knowing when to move and when to wait. It's about seeing opportunities in places where others only see problems. That's how you win. That's how you shift power. Look at your own life. You might not have the size somebody else has. You might not have the money, the degree, the connections, the platform. But if you've got strategy, if you've got the ability to think ahead, to plan, to move smart instead of moving fast, then you can outlast and outshine anybody who looks bigger than you. That's what you've got to understand. The shift of power is never about who's the biggest in the room. It's about who's thinking the deepest. Strategy is what allows you to turn your weakness into strength. Strategy is what allows you to win battles without fighting wars. Strategy is what allows the underestimated to become the unstoppable. India understood this on a global level, and that's why people are waking up now saying, wait a second, the world order is changing. It ain't because India suddenly grew in size. It's because India grew in strategy. And you need to stop looking at yourself like you're behind just because somebody else looks bigger. Don't let their size intimidate you. Don't let their noise discourage you. Don't let their presence make you feel small. Because the real game ain't about who's bigger, it's about who's smarter. That's why you've got to sharpen your mind, sharpen your skills, sharpen your vision. Don't waste time trying to outmatch somebody's size when you can outthink them. That's what makes a lasting difference. When you think about shifting power in your own life, don't focus on adding size, focus on building strategy. You don't need to be the biggest to win. You need to be the one with the clearest plan. You need to be the one who sees the opportunity before anybody else does. You need to be the one who moves in silence and shocks the room when your breakthrough shows up. That's how you shift power, that's how you rise. And that's how you prove once and for all that size never defines success. Strategy does the problem with most people as they walk into the room expecting respect just because they showed up. They think respect comes with a title, a paycheck, a position, or a loud voice. But life doesn't work like that. Respect is not handed out like a free sample. Respect is earned. You can't demand it, you can't force it, you can't bully your way into it. Respect is something the world gives you after you've proven yourself time and time again. And that's exactly what's happening right now on a global scale. For years, America has operated under the assumption that respect was automatic because of its power, its influence, its wealth. And sure, people gave it that respect for a long time because it was undeniable. But now the world is watching as India is slowly earning that same level of respect. Not by shouting for it, not by demanding it, but by showing up with results. See, respect comes when you show people consistency. Respect comes when you deliver what you said you would deliver. Respect comes when you keep working even when nobody is watching. And when that moment comes where your work can't be ignored, the respect naturally follows. India has been building credibility for decades through its technology, through its culture, through its resilience, through its steady rise. Nobody was handing India respect at first. In fact, many nations doubted it, underestimated it, ignored it. But you can't ignore results forever. You can't ignore progress forever. You can't ignore someone who just keeps showing up, keeps proving themselves, keeps stacking wins on the board until eventually the whole room has to turn and say, "Okay, we see you now." When that's the same lesson you've got to take into your own life. Stop walking around thinking people owe you respect. Nobody owes you anything until you earn it. You might be the hardest worker in your family, the most consistent dreamer in your circle, the most determined person in your field, but if you expect people to respect you just because you say so, you're going to end up disappointed. Respect is earned by showing up when others quit, by delivering when others doubted, by standing tall when others tried to push you down. That's when respect comes. Think about it, how many people you've seen demand respect, but don't live lives worth respecting. They talk a big game, but there's no substance. They want recognition without the grind. That's why they never last, because respect is not built on words. It's built on actions. You can shout all day about who you are, but if your actions don't match, nobody is going to respect you. What India did was simple. They didn't talk about being respected. They worked until respect became undeniable. Respect is also tied to integrity. It's not just about success, it's about how you achieve that success. People don't respect shortcuts. They don't respect lies. They don't respect manipulation. They respect honesty. They respect discipline. They respect resilience. India earned respect not by copying somebody else, but by standing firm in its own identity. And that's powerful because when you earn respect while being yourself, nobody can take that away from you. In your personal life, when you start building something, don't get frustrated if people don't recognize you right away. Don't get angry if they don't clap for you at the beginning. That's not the point. Respect takes time. Respect comes when you've proven yourself again and again. Just like India, you've got to be willing to go through years of being overlooked, Years of being underestimated, years of being counted out, because eventually all that hard work catches up with you. Eventually the world can't help but respect what you've built. And here's the thing, respect built on results lasts longer than respect given out of fear or pressure. People feared America's power, but they're starting to respect India's persistence. Fear fades, pressure shifts, but respect earned through actions lasts forever. That's why it's so much more powerful to earn it than to demand it. You want people to look at you not because they have to, but because they want to. You want people to respect you not out of obligation, but out of admiration, and the only way that happens is through consistent proof. So don't waste time demanding respect. Use that energy to keep working, to keep growing, to keep proving yourself. Let the results speak louder than your mouth. Let your persistence do the talking. Let your progress do the shouting. Because when you earn respect the right way, nobody can take it from you, and nobody can deny it. That's the real power, showing up, delivering, and letting the world recognize you not because you told them to, but because you gave them no choice, but to respect you every time the world changes. It demands new players to step up. That's the natural order of things. No empire, no leader, no nation, no person holds the spotlight forever. Power rotates. Influence shifts, and when the stage resets, somebody new always rises. That's what we're watching unfold right now. The world isn't the same as it was 20, 30, 50 years ago. The rules have changed. The needs have changed. The audience has changed. And because of that, the old players who used to dominate are no longer enough to carry the game alone. This is a new world, and a new world demands new players. For so long, America has been the unquestioned leader on the global stage. It set the tone, it wrote the rules, it decided what direction the world would go. And for a while that worked, because the old world order depended on that kind of size and influence. But as the world evolved, the game became more complex. Technology connected billions of people. Economies became intertwined. Voices that used to be silenced found new platforms. And suddenly, it wasn't just about who was the biggest anymore. It became about who was most adaptable, who was most innovative, who could respond to change instead of resisting it. That's where India stepped forward. India didn't wait for permission. It didn't beg for a seat at the table. It started building its own table, and now the world has no choice but to acknowledge it as one of the new players who define this era, and that's what life is about for you too. Every stage of your life demands a new player, a new version of you. The person you were 10 years ago might have been enough for that chapter, but this chapter needs more. You can't bring an old mindset into a new season and expect to win. Just like the world is shifting, your life is shifting. If you want to succeed in this new version of your life, you've got to be willing to step into the role of the new player. You've got to adapt. You've got to learn. You've got to become what this moment demands, not what yesterday required. See, new players don't come out of nowhere. They come out of preparation. They come out of people who've been waiting in the background, working while nobody was watching. That's what India represents right now. It's been working for decades, building industries, producing talent, establishing credibility. And now, when the old system is cracking, when the old players are losing their grip, the new player is ready. That's why the world feels this shift so strongly. Because the moment a new player steps in with strength and confidence, the entire game changes. You've got to ask yourself, what game in your own life is waiting for a new player? Maybe your family needs a new player to break the cycle. Maybe your career needs a new player to take bold risks instead of playing it safe. Maybe your dream needs a new player to finally stop procrastinating and start executing. Whatever it is, understand this. If you don't step into that role, the opportunity passes. The world won't wait for you to catch up. The new world is already here, and it's already demanding. Either you rise to meet it, or you watch somebody else take the spot that was meant for you. And here's the truth about new players. They don't always look like what people expect. When you think of power, you think of the same names, the same faces, the same giants. But the new players are often the ones nobody saw coming. That's why the shift is so powerful. That's why the world is caught off guard by India's rise. Because the narrative was so locked in that people thought there was no space for somebody else. But new worlds create new space, and when the right player is ready, they step into it with no hesitation. Respect the moment you're in right now, because it's not random. This season of your life is preparing you to be the new player. The struggles you're going through, the lessons you're learning, the silence you're enduring, it's all shaping you for the role you're meant to play. But you've got to recognize it. You can't keep living like the old world still exists. You can't keep acting like the same strategies will work. You've got to evolve. You've got to adjust. You've got to embrace the truth that the new world isn't waiting for the old you. It's demanding the new you. That's the story playing out on the global stage. The old guard is shifting. The spotlight is moving. And while one giant tries to hold on, another nation is rising. The lesson in that is clear. The same way the world demands new players, your life demands a new you. Don't be afraid to step into it. Don't be afraid to embrace it. Don't be afraid to recognize that sometimes the greatest growth, the greatest power, the greatest respect doesn't come from being the old player holding on. It comes from being the new player ready to rise.